And welcome back to the Raising Rices podcast, where we're going through a series called More Than Virtue. And I'm your host, Marissa Rice. Today, we are going to be starting episode 4, where we're going to be looking at Proverbs 31, verse 12. And it says, "She does him good and not harm all the days of her life." This is a short verse, but it carries a remarkably deep. It paints this picture of biblical womanhood that is steady, faithful, intentional, and rooted in covenantal love, not emotional convenience or cultural trends. So today we are talking about what it means for a woman to do her husband good. Why does this matter? And how we can live this out in grace in our marriages. So let's open the word together and get started. Here are a few opening thoughts to get our podcast rolling. Let's read it again. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. What comes to mind when you hear that phrase, she does him good? Maybe you think of kindness, maybe faithfulness, sacrifice. Maybe you think of seasons where this was easy and seasons where this was hard. One of us can recall moments where we have lived this out well and moments of honesty where we have struggled. This verse invites us not to shame, but to have reflection. It calls us to think about the kind of presence we bring into our marriage, the tone that we set in our home, and the influence that we have in our husband's life. So let's dig into this verse a little bit more. The phrase "does him good" in Hebrew is an active verb. I love that. It is not passive kindness or accidental goodness. It is intentional. It's a daily choosing to build up rather than tear down, to support rather than to sabotage, to strengthen rather than. This relational discipleship in marriage, choosing our husband's good out of a love for God and a love for him. This verse continues and it says, all the days of her life. That covenant language. This is lifelong faithfulness, not faithfulness only when it is convenient to you. And the opposite of this verse is not only dramatic harm or abusive behavior, but it also can be bitterness, coldness, sarcasm, indifference, passive contempt. So anything that kind of chips away at trust or at partnership or at peace in the home. That's what we see here. So let's connect this with a few other scriptures we see in the Bible. Romans 12:10. Outdo, I love that, outdo one another in showing honor. Proverbs 14:1, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her own hands. Ephesians 5:22-24, wives submit to their husbands as unto the Lord, not under compulsion, but under Christ-like love. Galatians 6:9, let us not grow weary in doing good. Doing him good is not a moment. It is a posture. It is a direction. It is a rhythm of the heart. So what does doing good look like? That is a good question. And how does it look in the day-to-day of marriage? Doing him good looks like showing respect in private and in public, speaking well of him even when he's not around, supporting his calling, his leadership, his growth, creating an atmosphere of peace in the home, praying for him intentionally and consistently, choosing encouragement over criticism, offering partnership, not competition, and being in a place of safety, not tension. A question you can reflect on this week: what is one small practical way that I can do my husband good today? And for the couples listening together, what is an area where you have seen this done beautifully in your marriage? And where is God still growing you? So we can look at this in a cultural contrast. Now that we have the knowledge of something else, right? The biblical standard, this verse stands in complete opposition to modern culture messaging. Like the world says, don't rely on anyone, especially not a man. It says independence is power and don't lose yourself in marriage or in motherhood. Serving your husband makes you weak. But these messages, while packaged as empowerment, often lead to resentment, loneliness, marital division, bitterness, and the slow tearing down of the home. God's design is different, and it is infinitely. Biblical womanhood is not about erasing yourself. It is about becoming a woman of strength who uses her strength to bless her husband and to build the family. The truth is, if a woman tears down her husband, her entire household suffers. If she strengthens him, though, her entire household flourishes. This is not oppression, my friends. This is self-giving love, and it looks a lot like Christ. So here is an encouragement to you wives. Let me speak to your heart for a moment. This verse is not about perfectionism. We hear that a lot. It is about faithfulness. Faithfulness to your calling and to what God has asked us to do as wives. You are the most influential voice in your husband's life. Do not take that for granted. Your tone matters, your support matters, your prayers matter, and your presence matters. And so ask yourself, am I refreshing my husband or exhausting him? Am I building my home or am I wearing it down? Am I using my influence for his good or from my frustration? These are not questions for guilt. They're invitations for growth. Even the smallest change, like a softer tone or a clearer word of affirmation, maybe specific affirmation, a prayer whispered over him before bed. These all can transform a culture of a home. So here are the reflection questions, and there are a few of them for you to carry into the week. So here we go. Do I see my role as doing him good every day, or have I grown indifferent? What tone do I bring into our marriage and into the home? We get to set that tone. Where do I need the Spirit's help to walk this verse out more intentionally? And how can I practically support my husband's heart this week? So pray through these, journal them, bring them before the Lord with humility and with hope of restoration and building of your marriage. So let's not underestimate the power of a faithful woman and what she can bring to a marriage. Proverbs 31 woman strengthens her husband. She does not compete with him, but she enriches his life. She does not drain it. She brings him good. She does not bring him harm. And she does this all the days of her life, not in her own strength, but in the strength and the grace of the Lord. If this episode today encouraged you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend or a women's group. And if you're following along with the book, you can also, if you don't have the book, grab a copy, More Than Virtue, on Amazon, or visit raisingrices.com, and you can have a downloadable book. There's also more resources at raisingrices.com for you to pursue a Christ-centered home and marriage. So until next time, walk faithfully, build wisely, love deeply, and let Christ strengthen your hands for the work that He has called you to. See you next time.